So, Jay Baba, we're here with Nick Principe. And Nick, we've been chatting, and you are going to tell a story about Dr. Goer, and I want to hear it right now. So, I'm all
Yeah.
ears.
Okay. So, um, Dr. Goer, well, I don't know how much, well, I'll give you background. And our first trip to India, that was my wife and I in 1976. And the reason we went there at that time is we had a child that died. Um, and that child, that's a whole nother story. If anybody's interested, I'm happy to go into that. Um, But my wife at the time was a nurse. I had no interest in medical stuff at all. But Dr. Goer took particular interest in my wife. Really, all the ladies, all the Mandali did, but they really looked after her. They made sure she, was tea, and they looked after me too. I mean, I was out on the porch, out on the veranda with the men. My wife, I was very jealous because she was in the back with Mani and Mara and all of them. And all of a sudden, somebody came out. One of the ladies came out. I don't remember who it was. Might have been, well, I don't remember. But she brought a tray of fruit, and she said, Mara sent this to me. And she said not to share it with anybody. So here I am with this, all this custard apple. And so their sensitivity to the suffering that she was going through was pretty big. Um, and it was at that visit, spontaneously, Dr. Goer just told me, she said, you go to nursing school. I had no idea. I did not have any aspiration. She didn't ask me if I wanted to. She said, go to nursing school. There's other side things with that, but no need to go into it. Now, you asked me earlier, Diana, that you were kind of curious about why Dr. Goer had the role she had. There is a woman, and I don't think I'm telling tales out of school. Her name is Barbara Connor. She lives in Durham, and she's married to John Connor, who used to travel with Bell. She was massaging Dr. Goer one day, her legs and her feet, and Mara told Barbara Connor, and she said, you massaging Dr. Goer is the same as massaging Baba. So I don't know. None of the Mandali sort of asserted themselves in any way as authorities. We know what Baba said about Mani being a perfect master in a future birth. I've since heard other tales about other people who were close to Baba. But, whenever we talk about any of the Mandali, they're what they have gone through in previous births in order to earn a place, to be that close to Baba, to take care of Baba's intimate personal details. Dr. Nilu, Donkin, the story with Donkin is they said Donkin died of a broken heart. That's how much he loved Baba. I don't know anybody in my lifetime who's there, regardless how much they talk about loving their spouse, or they don't kill over and die because I got broken heart because my partner's gone. Oftentimes they remarry, go and have another relationship, you know. So it to me is an indicator of how little I know about love. But Dr. Goer, she was rather unique. Well, all the Mandali had their different ways of being unique, but Dr. Goer, probably because of being a physician, I mean, she actually just directly asked my wife and I what kind of birth control we were using. I was stunned. I was shocked. We're just walking by the garden, and it was just like asking what did you have for dinner last night. There was no shame, there was no pretense, there was no it was just a matter of fact uh, question, and of course I was uncomfortable. I had no medical background really at the time, so I excused myself from the conversation and let my wife handle it. um, but yeah, uh, she had a rather unique approach to things. Also, gee, a couple of things now that I mean, I've got to, and pardon me, and that first trip to India, I was there 3 months. There was a Westerner there who contracted, what's the liver disease that people get sometimes?
Psoriasis? Not psoriasis. Cirrhosis.
Yeah, no, this was like an inflammation, not like an alcoholic kind of thing. It was,
Uh,
anyway, anyway, he was in the hospital in Ahmednagar,
mhm.
and he sent word from me with a pilgrim staying at the center at the retreat. He sent a message to me. I was a hairdresser. He asked if I would come see him and cut his hair. He had very long hair and a beard. And I went to go see him. They had him in nurses' quarters, so he was in a private room. They were treating him really nicely. But as fate would have it, I did not touch the man, and I ended up not cutting his hair. Next time, the next day or two, when I went back out to uh, Merazad, Goer found out that I had been to see this guy, and she got livid with me. She was upset with me, and she said, he's because it was highly contagious. She said, if you would have, I told her I didn't touch the man. She said, if you would have done his hair, she said, you risk infecting all of these people here. You see, I didn't know. All I knew, the guy asked me for a haircut. My ego was, yeah, I'm going to do him a big favor.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, yeah. Also, she knew people and medicine in a certain way. Speaking of birth control, I remember one time visiting the clinic, and I think I was sitting in while she was seeing a patient, and this was a young village girl who had come in to see her, and um, they were talking, and maybe there was someone else with me, but she turned and said, this young woman, maybe she was 16, 17 years old, she was coming to see Dr. Goer because she couldn't get pregnant. And it was so important for her because she wanted to have a baby, and I'm a young Westerner, and young Western women were trying not to be pregnant. And
Right.
here was this poor woman who had nothing, and she wanted to have a baby. It was all flipped.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, what Dr. Goer dealt with, she had a young man following her around. He was dressed in white, absolutely sparkling clean white pajama pants, a white top. His head was completely bandaged. He followed Goer around like a puppy dog, and he would go get bandages for her, whatever she needed. He was like his errand boy. He couldn't have been more than 15 or something like that. I found out that some time before, I don't know whether it was weeks or months or years, but he was playing with some friends and climbed one of the utility poles, and the top of his head hit the power line, and he was electrocuted. And he dropped to the ground, and his parents left him for dead. And he was taken to the clinic, and Dr. Goer nursed him back to life. And so that's Goer was she was just really um, just I don't know, hard to describe.
Yeah, she's seen everything.
Yeah, and of course these people, because I'm just rereading the um, Bao's biography, and I read it when it first came out in the 70s, and now I'm rereading it again, and it's like reading it for the first time. But one
House
of
fire. Oh,
the of
oh,
Bob, yeah, Lord, yeah, by the 14 volume
oh,
biography,
oh, yeah, yeah. Lord
yeah,
Mayor.
Lord Mayor, right? But Baba actually went to find Goer when she was a child, 4 or 5 years old. That's when he found her, or uh, so Baba would select these people. It was like they were waiting. There was already set in motion for them to be with him.
Oh, yeah.
So yeah, she was
Mm. So you're
yeah.
reading the biography again. Have you read it all through one time already?
Oh yes.
That's impressive.
Well, Fred Winterfeld. You know who Fred was? Is that name
Yeah,
familiar?
I didn't know him, but I know who he was.
He and his wife were introduced by Mercer Deuce.
Hmm.
He managed an apartment building in Manhattan at the time, and the people who live there. Norina was there, Elizabeth was there, and so he had very interesting background with Baba. But Fred told me he was the caretaker here at the center. Early, Baba sent him here. His wife's name was Ella, and Baba referred to him as Fred Ella, one word. And Fred told me, he said, Nick, the spiritual path is from here to here. And I did not think to ask him what he meant, but what I've come to believe over all these years is that, you know, and this is not, I don't mean to paint the entire universe with the same paintbrush, but I think there's some similarities. Is that, most of us, when we first hear about Baba, it's just information that sits up here. Somehow or other, we have to get it to percolate down to our heart. And that may take lifetimes. I think that's why Baba said, just tell somebody my name. That's all you have to do. I remember Adi one time referring to somebody, said, better luck next birth. The guy was not doing what he should have been doing. Now he's better luck next birth. It's not, you're not condemned. So I think when we read something or hear about something, watch a film, uh, and you watch it or reread it or rethink about it, oftentimes you get something completely different. Your experience is different. You're perhaps a little more. Your awareness is a little different. Things you may focus on, just is different. For me, this particular, I'm on volume 12 actually, and it's the Andhra tours and Hamipur. And what has amazed me, which I never paid any attention to, was the amount of suffering Baba went through. When one trip, when Bao was staying with me in Chapel Hill, there was I'm not sure if it was the Mel Gibson movie about Jesus Christ. And Bao sat on the couch watching the movie and cried like a baby. That's how much he felt Jesus suffering and 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 Baba's suffering.
Yeah, I know that there was so much criticism about that movie, and Bao had something very positive to say, exactly what you're saying, that it really portrayed the suffering,
Yeah.
and that was
Yeah.
and it was significant.
Well, way back, if people have this idea. It's part of the reason why I haven't done much with. I don't do well in gatherings and things like that because my views are a little askew from many others, and that's part of it. Is like that, you know. Way back many years ago, I spent an awful lot of time with Jal, with Baba's brother, and Jal loved to tell shit jokes. He would tell shit jokes just one after the other. It all had to do with some bowel movement, and which I found completely fascinating because I had read before that Bob had said, never criticize my family. He said, you have no idea what they've gone through to be able to earn a place to be in my family. So here's Bob's brother. So I'm figuring if I don't understand something, it's my fault. It's not, of course, what he's doing. But anyway, so here I am. We're in the Pilgrim Center in India, and this might have been 80 or 81. And I was telling some Jal stories to some of the folks from Australia, and this lady was there, and she asked me if I would send audio cassette and record some stories. She was doing a newsletter or something from someplace, California or something. Well, I sent her some of these jokes. She sent it back. She said, I can't publish any of these. I said, these are jokes that were told to Baba. And she decided to edit out. And that's what happens with a lot of people now. Because it doesn't suit them, they want to change whatever the narrative was before. And I'm one of those people that I'm going through that brick wall. I
Yeah.
want to go right to the source.
Hey, I have to ask you this. Did you laugh at these jokes?
Yeah. Oh, sure.
Okay, I mean, you didn't say, okay, it made you laugh.
Well, in the first place, I'm a crusty Italian from Brooklyn.
Okay.
So there, I didn't know anything politically correct. And that's really what you're talking about. It's
Yeah.
and plus after being with the Mandali, um, I had I think I may have told you before. I know I've talked about this. Uh, I would talk to the Mandali about anything. Kitty Davy had a hysterectomy one time. I just asked her about it. I asked her if she ever had surgery. I mean, oh yes, I had a hysterectomy. It's like, it was like matter of fact.
Mhm.
And the Mandali were very they were always they answered every question I ever had. I asked Kitty one time if she ever missed having sex. Can you imagine? I'm asking this 85-year-old Mandali member if she missed having sex. She said, "Oh, Nick," she said, "I can tell you, I've never once had a lustful thought my entire life." So I none of that stuff meant from a very early age. I recognized hypocrisy. I saw it in the Catholic Church, where people would do one thing and then say something else. They pretend to be this way and then be something else. And Baba, when I started reading from Baba, uh, for instance, the story that's in print, but a lot of people still either haven't read it or they refuse to believe it. But Boward told me about this, and subsequently I saw it in print in one of the books that there was a young couple who went to Indian couple who went to see Baba, and they were unmarried, and she was pregnant. And Baba told the man to leave and to never seek this woman out again for any reason, never to see her. He told her, he sent her to Bombay to stay with Arnavas. And he said, tell your parents, and I will also have Adi send a letter that I want you to be under with me for some. And she went, her parents never knew she was pregnant. She had the baby. Baba had it put up for adoption. And Bao told me this girl, now married afterwards, she has a family, children, came to Baba all the time afterwards. She said, she's still coming. But my mind at first, that was a very difficult thing for me when I read that or heard that from Bao in the early days, because I thought, wait a minute, the 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 the, the Christ is telling a woman to give your baby up for adoption. It completely sent me in a tailspin.
Why do you think that happened? Why?
Why? What? Why in a tailspin?
Why
Or
did that
why
confuse?
did Baba do what he did?
No, no. Why did that affect you that way?
Because it rattled my Catholic beliefs. And mind you, I started hearing this stuff in the mid '70s. I was in letter communication with Eruch in 1972. So I was already privy to information that was not even in the West.
Mhm.
You know, Jal, matter of fact, I told you briefly about our child that died. That baby was named by Jal.
No.
Yeah. So, it was a very unique, um, and a unique opportunity with them. But I certainly had my sort of rigid hold on what's right and what's wrong,
Mhm.
and the idea of, I didn't understand, not that I do now, but I accept it. When you read something about, some thief or a murderer who's committed 99 murders, and when he commits the 100th murder, he gets God realization. Where do you find anything like that in Western lore? Nothing. There's nothing like that. So, we are, and we are those, matter of fact, Upasni, his discourses are rather fascinating. There's 5 volumes of discourses, which I read many years ago. After I finish the, the biography, I'm going to start on Upasni's again. Um, but this Upasni talks about a lot of these things. He said the most difficult attachment to give up is the national identity. And
National identity? That is awesome statement. I mean, look at the world today.
well, that's it. That's it. He said it's the most difficult, the strongest and most difficult attachment to get over.
It's really interesting because I don't sense that in myself. I know some people say I love America, and I don't, but I think, but if I were in that situation, it would probably be different.
Well, it doesn't mean because you're born in this country that, you're Babas. If you're Babas, you already, who knows where you've been before and where you'll be in the future. The people who become attached to things. I mean, Baba's definition of attachment. He said, if you're attached to something, it means you miss it when it's gone.
Mhm.
So what are your attachments? Would I miss being in America? No. Would I miss not being at the center? Yes. I want to be with Papa. But what country I live in, that doesn't make any difference to me anymore. I want to be where Baba is.
Okay.
If next birth Baba's ashram was in Tibet, I'd be happy to be there. good pair of skis so I can enjoy the snow, and I'd be all right.
Wow.
Yeah, yeah, and that's part of the reason why we have the wars that we have is because this national identity. It's stronger than religious identity. But when you think about it, when you look historically, think of the wars we've had because of religious identity. The Middle Ages, the Dark Ages, and all that. Those were wars of religion. Now it's what
It,
country you live in.
it's more than that. I remember in college, some class where they were talking about whatever, and there's also such an attachment to the land people live on. And so we see that right now in the Middle East. We know that our native people, our first Americans, they are so wedded to the land. And people do have a very strong feeling for their land.
Yeah, well, until it gets supplanted by a feeling for the avatar.
Yeah,
When that happens, then you realize that nothing is yours.
yeah,
It's temporary. It gives us things to use. The classic attachment individually is attachment to our bodies.
right.
And when we give up that attachment, at some point we have to.
Mhm.
The beautiful prayer that Baba gave, I am not the body, I am not the mind, I am not this, I am not that, I am nothing but a living lie of that truth that is me. And unless the lie is dead, the truth shall not be.
Mhm.
So that's what we are. We're a lie, we're a living lie.
Mhm.
So little by little, all of those attachments, they have to go. And fortunately, hopefully, he'll help us to remain attached to him.
Absolutely. Wow. You said something earlier about having been in close contact with Eruch in the early
Yeah,
70s. Would you like to say some more about that?
yeah, it's sure, sure. Again, how strange people are. Listen. I still have a couple of old timey Baba lovers that won't even talk to me because of what this episode I'm going to tell you. So now we're talking about before this 72. It's the first letter I got from Erich. I had written to him and I had some questions because I was already in letter contact with Jal. I had been writing back and forth to Jal for a year or two. So I wrote to Erich. I had bought property in the mountains of West Virginia, and there were some ruins of a cabin. There was no buildings on the property. It was 70 acres of land, and but there were a lot of snakes on the property. So and it was pretty scary. So I wrote to Erich and asked him what if Baba said anything about what to do about snakes. And I still have the letter. Erich wrote back to me and said that snakes, it is not only okay to kill a snake, but it is beneficial to the snake because the snake is twisted and knotted up sanskaras. And if it's killed by a human conscious person, the snake is released from the snake form. He said, but don't go out hunting it. But if you see one and it's there, you kill it. So now, in the early 70s, I was working with Fred Ella at the meeting place. We were going in for an Amartithi meeting. There was maybe an inch or two of snow uh, on the ground, Amartithi. We It's noontime, the sun's out shining. We go out. We were in the Pine Lodge, Fred called Payne Lodge. We were going out to his car, and there was a copperhead curled up in the snow right by his front tire. And I saw it, and I said to Fred, first time I saw a snake on the center. And he said, quick, get it. There was a shovel there. That's why the shovels are left around at the center. He said, kill it. So I did. I cut off its head and disposed of it. Later that day, as people were leaving, that story circulated around that I had killed a snake. And there was one fellow in particular, and I'm not going to mention who it was because he's a very highly regarded and respected individual in the Baba community, no longer alive. And he went off on me how terrible it was. I had no business killing a snake. And I had to go get the letter from Eruch to show him. From that moment till the day he died, he never spoke a word to me afterwards. He was that angry. So here's somebody who had met Baba, by the way, had been with Baba. But that he did not understand. You know, it was a lot of interesting lessons for me because it made me realize that just because somebody meets Baba doesn't mean they know Baba.
Absolutely.
You know, and you know, and people, there are many people who used their time spent with Baba to attract attention to themselves.
Right.
And in those days, especially because there were many. There were Indians who came here who might have met Baba at one darshan, and they would travel around America and got housed for free, were fed, and people would take them in because they'd want to know what it was like to be with Baba. You know, we were all, I fell into that because I did the same thing, you know, hosted one of these guys and then realized it was just kind of like meant it had nothing to do with me. I still had to do my own work.
Absolutely.
You know?
Well, Nick, I wanted to say something. We talked earlier about what you see on the screen and what I see on the screen. Do you see on your screen that we have someone else here? It's Marcia.
Nope, I see you, nobody else.
Just me. Okay, well, we do have another person here. It's Marcia, and she just joined. And Marcia, you're muted, but would you like to say hi to Nick?
Yeah, hi. I'm
Oh,
calling
ah,
in
there you
from
are. Hi, Marcia.
I'm in the Hermitage.
Oh, good for you. How
I
wonderful.
know, yeah. I just went out once to go get water and I was invited to go to the discourses and I said, "No, I'm not leaving the Hermitage." Yeah.
Good for you. I
How
remember
are
when
you?
that was built. Oh, I'm fine.
Well, they're going to build another one right next to it and I'm trying to stir up trouble because I don't it's too close. And I ran into Buzz Connor and he said, "Oh, the land is more level there and it's got the utilities, but it's going to take away the sanctity of the Hermitage." I mean, people come here to play music. It's like once he
Yeah.
does it, it'll be too late. It's like
You
he's
know, Marcia, I'll tell you what, I mean, of course, you do whatever you think is best, but
well, I'm thinking to do
uh,
nothing, but I did take pictures and wrote something, but I'm holding back to see what other people do. But if people don't say anything now, it's going to be too late. It's already probably
well,
too late.
you know, my, listen,
Well, this is
I've,
being recorded. I don't know if this should be
It is being
whatever.
recorded, just so you know.
it's all right.
But
It's look,
yeah,
they
but
have
I don't
virtual,
think I said anything wrong. It's just what's
You're okay. You're
happening.
you're safe, Marcia.
Well, you know me, I'm a worrier, so I try to be
you
careful.
know,
Nick wanted to respond. Let
Go
Nick say.
ahead.
yeah, yeah. Let me give you a little insight into something.
Okay.
Years ago, when Bao was staying with me in Chapel Hill, and it was at a time when there was a lot of conflict at the center about who was going to be the new chairman and all that stuff. Bao, there was so much conflict that I was receiving phone calls from Eruch in India to talk to Bao. They would have conference calls about how to deal with this. Bao was getting emails, letters. He would look at everything, he would read it, he would hand them to me. And I have a file that's probably an inch thick from all of this.
Well,
And then he said to me, when he was getting ready to leave after a period of time, he was, whatever it was, a week or so that he was with me. I said, what do I do with this file? He said, keep it. You'll have it for your information. So I still have it. There are things in there that I wish I hadn't seen, but they're there. But he told me, he said, remain aloof. Do not get involved with that. There
yeah,
are people who are assigned those positions for a reason. They are given their jobs because of Baba. Now, as another little aside with that, which may help, I had a group of people at my house one time. I had gone to bed. They got drunk. They started tossing fruit in the air, trying to stab them with knives and forks. I woke up to this mess of squashed fruit in my kitchen, threw everybody out. And in those
wow.
days, now this is in the 70s, I had a big poster of Baba that said real happiness lies in making others happy. And this one fellow who was there said, I guess you don't really believe in this, do you? And I said, well, what do you mean? He said, well, this makes me happy, and you're telling me I can't do it.
Oh,
And I really I didn't know how to answer it. And I went, next time I was in India, I explained it all to Eruch. And Eruch said, never compromise your own values. That's as far as you have to go to make somebody happy. And then he said, if you have if you see something, I said, what about I see something and I know it's wrong or dangerous? And it was a Baba lover who looked like he had a tire that was overinflated. And when I said something to him, he got really upset with me. And Eruch said, your job is to just say what's on your mind, but do not be concerned with the outcome.
I
He
gotcha.
said.
Yeah,
So say what you want to say, say it, but then that's Baba's business.
yeah,
It's not your business because he's arranging things for the future. Baba's arranging things for 100 years from now, 200 years from now, till he comes back. He said this is going to be a place of world pilgrimage. So how do we know how many cabins there are going to be there in another 50 years?
yeah, yeah. It's not my
Whether we,
business. Yeah, yeah.
it's not your business. No, it's not our business. I would love things to be, I would love to see Kitty and Elizabeth there again. It ain't going to happen.
Yeah.
It ain't
No,
going
I
to happen.
decided just to take photographs because I got a tripod and I just want to take pictures of the way it is now, and
Sure.
I'm not going to get more further involved, no. But I took some beautiful pictures. I got a new, I lost my phone, so I got a new phone and a new tripod,
Good
and
for you.
I was like having so much fun, like photographing everything. So I'm going to make a movie.
Yeah.
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 So what are
I
you
mean,
up to? What,
no good.
what kind of conversation did I butt into that changed everything? You had
Just
a
what we're
topic
talking
or
about.
anything?
No, nothing in specific, just old stories about the Mandali and,
Oh,
hopefully sort of different, you might say different things. And I'm just getting now to put into practice. Um, I'm just now um, trying to be not so much of a arrogant SOB, because my tendency is to just stay by myself and not talk to people. Even doing these Baba Zoom things is almost painful for me.
oh, I'm sorry.
No,
Yeah.
no, 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 no. That's not the response. It's good for me. It's
Well, it
because
is good. It's good for all of us. Yeah.
he's holding my feet to the fire.
Uh-huh.
Because whatever Baba has given us so much, and we need to share it. And we need to share more than criticism. We need to share the good things. Aging is a big thing. I get asked that all the time about aging because now I'm older than dirt. And, how do you age and keep a sense of humor? You know,
Yeah,
those are the things we need to be talking about.
yeah.
How to keep Baba's company more.
You tell Charles jokes.
Oh, Giles jokes. Giles
One
was
day you're gonna have to tell us those jokes.
okay. Okay, I'll tell you one of them that comes to mind.
Okay.
Well, matter of fact, I'll even back up and tell you what Giles told me.
Yeah.
In the Manzili meme days, Giles was Baba's brothers were a bit of a rogues, both of them. I don't know if you know that. His brother Adi in London was, let's just say, he had a reputation for being a bit of a ladies' man. What that meant in ancient India, I have no idea. Might have been just looking at somebody, might have made him a rogue, but I had heard that. Jal was younger by probably 5 or 6 years. So in Manzila Meme, Jal said he had no capacity for telling jokes. He said it was just not something that he had ever, wanted to do or thought about. But he was devoted to his brother. So they're in Manzilimin, and one of the orders that they all had, all the people that were men that were there, is that whenever Baba, when he left Manzilimin, they were all to follow him, regardless of the alarm would go up. He wouldn't necessarily would signal them that he was leaving. He'd just get up and go out the door, the gates. And regardless of what anybody was doing, whether they were in the toilet, whether they were shaving, whether they were reading a book, they all just had to, their order was to follow Baba. So John tells me that there's one morning Baba got up very early. It might have been 3 o'clock, 4 o'clock in the morning. And Baba starts walking off in the distance. And the Mandali is straggling behind, Adi and Padri and Pendu and all the others that were there, and Jal. And Baba just continues walking for quite a distance. And the men are now grumbling because some of them need to urinate, some of them want a cup of tea because they just awaken from sleep, some of them, and just off they go. So they're grumbling. So after a while, now Baba was not silent at this time, Baba was talking. And he wasn't even referred to as Merwan at that time, as Meher. It was Merwan or Merog. His family would call him Merog, M-E-R-O-G. So after a while, Baba signals for Jal to come up closer and walk with him ahead of, and the other men are lagging behind. And they're disheartened now. They're just, because they don't know where they're going or what they're doing. And this was their early training. They were teenagers. They were, Adi was still in college. So, they were 18, 19 years old. They had no spiritual background. So Baba, he gets Jal up to him, and Jal said, Baba told him, he said, look, he said, we need something to cheer the men up. He said, so I want you to tell us a joke or think of something funny. And okay, so and now Jal goes back and he's walking with the men, and he's trying to think about what he can do to lighten the mood. So finally he announces loudly, because they're maybe 10 or 20 feet back behind, because Baba's walking briskly. And he calls to him, he said, Merwan, Merwan. Baba turns, he says, yes, what is it? He said, I have a confession to make. So now Baba has an excuse to stop. So he gathers the men all around him, and Jal is there, they're all standing in a circle. And Baba said, well, what is it? What do you have to tell me? He said, Baba, he said, I stole something. And Baba looked at him and he said, my brother, you stole something? Why would you steal something? He said, well, Baba, because if I didn't, I would break your order. Baba said, wait, I never gave you an order to steal anything. So why do you say I gave you an order to steal? He said, well, Baba, he said, you remember last week? He said, when I was ill and I went to the doctor and I had a cold, and the doctor gave me some medicine. And he said, you take 2 spoons with breakfast. Baba said, yes, I remember. What's that got to do with stealing? He said, well, yesterday when we were at a restaurant, he said, I had breakfast and then I stole 2 spoons. take 2 spoons with breakfast. So, Baba had a laugh. All the men had a laugh. And then Baba said, okay, now we'll go have tea. But that was John's initiation into telling jokes. And fast forward to 1932, when Baba was in Hollywood, 32 or 34, I think 32. And Baba met all the Hollywood people he wanted to meet. They had the big party for him at Pick Fair at Douglas Fairbanks and Mary Pickford's place, and he met Cary Grant and all those famous people. And Baba wanted, he was at Paramount Studios, a beautiful photo I have with him standing at the gate of Paramount Studios with Tallulah Bankhead, silent screen actress. And here's Bob in a beautiful white suit. His hair is down. He just looked Hollywood. He just looked Hollywood. So Bob was taken on a tour, and he would tell the different Mandali, Adi or whoever was with him, to make sure they invited certain people. And one of the people that Baba wanted to come to that gathering was Boris Karloff, the actor who played Frankenstein. So Jal was sent to invite Boris Karloff, and Boris Karloff told him, no, I'm not interested, I'm not coming. When told Baba, and Baba said, no, he must come, it's important. Go back and convince him. So he goes back to try to convince Boris Karloff. And Boris Karloff apparently prided himself, he was trained in British theater, and he prided himself on being able to show whatever emotion he wanted to show as an actor and to not show emotion. So Jal was really pestering him, and Boris Karloff apparently told him, he said, I'll tell you what, he said, if you can make me laugh, I'll come to meet your brother. And of course, the story is that whatever Jal did got Boris Karloff in stitches. And not only did Boris Karloff go to meet Baba, but Mani afterwards told me when Jal died, they went through his trunk, and he had carried on letter communication with Boris Karloff until Boris Karloff died, sometimes many, many years later. They had just stayed in communication. So, who knows what Baba's work is with some of these people. The individuals he wanted, Greta Garbo. I think Greta Garbo was the only one who did not go. But Baba had identified, and see, this is the part that we have a hard time understanding or even hearing. Apparently, Baba stated that Greta Garbo had been a very advanced yogi in a previous birth. So he wanted to meet her this birth for whatever work he was doing. So Jal later on, when he was in Pune, Baba kept him in Pune because, and this is a little aside, but an interesting bit of trivia. In India, the Avatar's brother is worshipped almost as much as the Avatar. And Baba sending all the masters apparently sent their nearest relatives away and didn't allow them to stay with them. So Jal was sent to Pune. Of course, his older brother Behram died, and Jal became surrogate father for the twins, for Zorab and Rustam. Because Behram, Baba's brother Behram, died at a young age. So Jal became, Baba told him to be his emissary for Westerners. So in those early days, in the 60s and 70s, Jal would greet all the Westerners. He was living in Pune. He would greet us in Pune and take us around to all the Baba places, and give us little bits of history about what was going on. Sassoon Hospital, where Baba was born, took us to the high school, St. Vincent's, places where Baba went to school, Deccan College, all those people. And while we were doing all that, he would be telling us jokes. And a fair amount of them were shit jokes. And one that I remember, which I believe they had told Baba, yes. It's been so many years since I even thought about this. That there was the Indian chief who was severely constipated, and he calls one of the braves to it, and he said, "Now you go to see the shaman, the witch doctor." He said, "You tell him, big chief no shit." So he goes and he tells the shaman gives him medicine, and he takes the medicine. The next day he sends him back. He said, No, tell him big chief still no shit. Okay, he goes back. This happens 2 or 3 times. Finally, it works. The medicine is so powerful. He said, "No," he said, "you go back and tell him, no chief, big shit." So these were, John he was an innocent. Now this is an interesting perspective, and this is again I have a weird way of looking at things. Most people in the West, unless you're a 12-year-old boy, you don't tell shit jokes. But Sai Baba would have what they call the Lendi ceremony, when he would go move his bowels. When he would have a bowel movement, there was a parade, and there was an umbrella held over his head, and he would go out in the field to have a bowel movement, and there was a parade. There is something, I have no idea what it is. You can use your own imagination if you want to go there. For me, there is something that has some spiritual significance. Now, again, it's our lack of understanding, our lack of, and Diane, what we were talking about before, the Western mind doesn't even want to go there. Rather than spend time kind of thinking, what could it possibly mean? Doesn't mean we're going to come up with an answer. I don't pretend to have answers. But to me, it sort of reinforces the idea that it's either illusion or God. And everything that we're talking about is in the world of illusion. And there is, we're going to put value on different aspects of illusion, which is pretty difficult. I can't do it, but it's just illusion.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, those are lovely sharings for tonight, Nick. I don't know what else we're going to get into. Marcia, did you have anything you wanted to bring up? Because we've,
Well, I was just thinking how hard it is to realize that this seems so real to us, but it's really illusion. So, you just have to figure out whatever's going on. It's because Baba's doing it, and you have to have faith and trust. And if you don't have that, you're in trouble because it's a real deal, right?
No, Eruch took me into his room one time, and he had a small desk, and he had a piece of glass on the top, and there was some paper notes uh, underneath, and he had me copy down these things. These were prayers that Baba had given him. And so I copied them all down. They were all on my refrigerator. One of them um, is about trust. I believe it's trust him when your faith is small. Trust him when even to trust him is the hardest thing of all. I mean, that's really what we have to do. If we don't, to me, one of my early decisions with Baba is that if I did not trust him, I was going to go find another master. If you have a doctor and you don't trust your doctor, you don't keep going to your doctor.
Yeah.
You have a dentist, you don't trust your dentist, you go find another dentist. If you don't trust your husband or wife or housemaid or whoever, you get them out of your life. So with Baba, we either trust him or go find somebody else. But if you're going to trust him, trust him.
Well, he shows me in every way, to every detail, that everything is perfectly to the penny with him, everything, it's like, and you think about the thing is having patience because his time is different than our time, and he doesn't give you always what you want, but what you need. But
Well
sometimes
said.
it's hard. Yeah, yeah,
Well said, Marsha. Yeah.
yeah. If I didn't have Bob, I'd hide under my bed and never go out with all the fear and stuff that's out in the
Well,
world. So, you have to detach from it because you pick up on that stuff, and Baba doesn't want us to join the stuff that's negative. He wants us to hang on to his light because he needs that. He doesn't need us to join the Maya crowd, or the be in the world but not of it, which is really very difficult, especially if you have family and they call and they have all these problems. You have to like be there to listen to them, but then you have to just go ahead and pray to God to help them because they have to live their own life. You can't step in and give them advice. It's really hard it's hard, like he says, it's walking on the edge of a sword, right? Like, yeah.
well, I think about how difficult it must have been for the Mandali
Oh my God,
to
he was really
listen.
hard on them too. He had to be, right? He was very
Well, I was
strict.
thinking about
I I don't
I
know if
was
I could have done that. Yeah.
I was thinking about their life after he left the body. That here they were for 30, 40 years, listening to our stupid questions, being
Yeah.
asked again and again and again. And they always met us with patience and with love. Never I saw them upset. Very rare did I ever see them upset. And it was only if somebody did something really egregious. Um, so, that's what we have to aspire to. There's a wonderful old phrase that goes back to the French Reformation. It's noblesse oblige. Now, the literal translation of that means that the nobles are obligated. So during those days in France, the only people who had education or money were the nobles. The poor people had no education and no money. So the nobles were obligated to take care of the poor people. Noblesse oblige. We have that same responsibility with letting people know about Baba and his love. It's noblesse oblige. If you know more than another Baba lover about something, or you have a different insight about something, or just a new way of looking at something, you're obligated to share that. It's not just for yourself. What they do with it is their business. They could look at you and laugh and say, no, I'm not interested in that. But that's our responsibility, is to share what we've learned from Baba.
Sometimes we have to do overwhelmed me, with it. You have to be, because, yeah, it's like, you don't want to like flood them. And I know I get excited about stuff, so I have to watch myself. But when I finally admitted that Baba is the avatar and I surrendered, then things changed for me. When you finally surrender and give yourself to God, then he has to take care of you. He said that, he's obligated to take care of us too. But you have to like, kind of like do your best, and I know every time something happens and I have a problem, he makes me go through it myself, but I know he's there, and I come through it because he wants you to learn to do things on your own. That you like, I was always afraid to go in the woods, and well, I got lost a lot of times in the woods, but now, I don't panic. I just figure,
Mm-hmm.
okay, I'll find my way. It's like I got lots of stories, especially here, going down the wrong roads and in the middle of the night being stuck in between trees. And it's dark, like, oh boy. So he says, don't be afraid to call out for help if you need it. Yeah. So you take his name.
So
Yeah, thank
speaking
you
of
for sharing.
so speaking of the center, which of the Mandali have been to the center?
Wow.
We name them?
Well, there were many that I know of that I met, but I don't know about others. But of course, Adi was there in '77.
Yeah.
Dr. Goer.
Well, the women were with Baba.
Yeah.
Are you talking about before, after his passing, or any time, or?
Yeah, anytime.
Oh, well, the women who were with Mera, Mani, Dr. Goer, and I think Meru was also the
Yeah.
women who were there. There were people who Baba had referred to as Mandali, who a lot of people don't even know who they are. Ann Forbes, for instance, who lived in Miami.
Mm-hmm.
Baba had referred to her as one of his Western Mandali.
Yeah.
Of course, Margaret Krask,
Yeah.
uh, you know, golly, there were so many that
I guess any
you know,
Mandali that came to the States definitely would go to the center because that's obviously where they would want to see. And then if they traveled, because I know Meru was in the States, she must have been to the center. Katie.
yes, but that was a little different because Meru, she actually came and visited me in Chapel Hill also. But
Hmm.
Jerry Edwards at the time had a private plane, and Jerry Edwards was flying her around.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah,
Wow.
and she
Wow,
was,
that's a trip.
yeah, so she was thrilled. I don't know if you knew Jerry and Shirley.
I knew who they were. Yeah.
Yeah, he was had been a nuclear engineer for the Navy,
Uh-huh.
military.
Wow. I
Really
met
a
him in
cool
Myrtle
man.
Beach.
Yeah, and he
Yeah.
Yeah, he flew his own plane, and she was in Myrtle Beach, and of course Alba was here in Myrtle Beach. He
Yeah.
also stayed with me, Bao. There were almost all the Mandali, and I guess, and I'm thinking also the dancers. You know, the Mandali. That's an interesting word right there, anyway, because there are several definitions. I think to really be honest about it, there are those we call resident Mandali.
Mm.
And the resident Mandali are those people who lived with Baba. And those were, the ones that were pretty much on the new life. But there were lots of Mandali who were with Baba, long periods of time. Or Baba would give them a task and go do something, go live. Even Kitty, of course, Baba had sent Kitty to Myrtle Beach. He had no intention ever living at Myrtle Beach. He wanted to stay in India with Baba. But Baba told her to go, and she went. Her obedience was that perfect. But I would imagine you could probably come up with a list that's pretty significant of
Good point. Yeah, resident Mandali and then those others.
yeah, like in Forbes, Baba had called her one of his Western Mandali. I mean, these are things that are in print.
Mhm.
And Baba himself, I think, said something. I don't want to paraphrase him, but it was something to the effect that, and anybody who obeys me 100%, it can be called a Mandali. But there are those. Well, I think of it this way. Eruch, one time, we were all in Mandali Hall, and Eruch said, when Baba appears on the planet, he said it's like a big rock being dropped in the middle of a still lake. He said, now what happens when that rock hits the water? The waves start to spread out. The closer to the center where that rock hits, the waves are the biggest. And then the further out it gets, the waves get weaker. And Eruch said, the Mandali, he said, we are in that first wave. He said, and you pointed to all of us in Mandali Hall. He said, all you Western Baba lovers, you're in the next wave.
Mhm.
In the next wave. And he said, and every time that rock drops, then the same thing happens again. But the first wave, they're gone. Eruch, Mani, they, one or two, three more births, they're all finished. So we have to try and earn a spot to be close to the avatar. At least that's my goal.
Maybe we're the third circle. I don't know. I was thinking, I did a painting like that with all the circles, the 10 circles.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Because there were the people that went, before that met Baba, and then there's the people that were with the Mandalay, and then all the people that went to the gatherings, and then I'm the next layer. And then there'll be more and more layers, right, of people.
Well, it's Baba called it the ongoing life stream of humanity. There's continual new souls coming in and souls finishing their journey.
Yeah.
Who knows where anybody is? I don't know. Anyway, I'm gonna have to call it an evening now. It's
Yeah.
I'm
Thank you.
It's been lovely. Okay, well, I want to thank you for being here with us, and I'm going to stop our recording. So I say
yeah.
Jai
Thank
Baba.
you.